Yes, sir. Y'all know what it is, what it do. YouTube, it is your boy Who That Davis here for you. Let me just turn this right off right here. We don't need that noise, you know what I'm saying? It is your boy Who That Davis here for you. And as always, if you don't know, you will know that over here we bleed black and gold until we are dead. And Cole, thank you for joining me this morning for another fantastic episode of the BNG Breakdown Podcast with your boy Who That Davis. I hope y'all are having a very, very good morning and as good of a Monday morning as y'all can. As y'all can see, got the new drip right here. You know what I'm saying? Look, I've been going out and about. I've been having some time with the nieces, trying to get some new gear. Got some more stuff in the closet. I'm gonna be breaking out over the course of a few weeks. So you see me looking kind of fresh. Mind your business. You see some kind of apparel that looks kind of suspect. Mind your business. Okay, some shirts and shorts are recommended to me by my family. So I thought, nah, I don't know. So I'll rock these for a couple of weeks. I'll see how I feel about it. For right now, this is a new shirt I got from the Edgewater Mall down in Gulfport a little while back. First time breaking it out and on this platform. So I hope y'all like it. It's a nice little coat shirt. You know what I'm saying? Got a little, you know what I'm saying? Got a little extra on the back right here. But I'll show that to y'all. Show the back a little later. But like I said, man, I'm in good spirits this morning. It's a great morning to talk Saints football, to talk with y'all about how I feel about the Saints right now. And if you're going to work pissed off, don't be. It's all right. We're going to get through it. But there's a lot to talk about right now. There's a lot to talk about through the first 6 weeks, especially after yesterday. It sparked a whole lot of conversations across social media. If you are a New Orleans Saints fan, from Facebook to Instagram, especially on Twitter/X. We'll just call it Twitter X. I'll just call it Twitter X, keep it simple. But the main topic of discussion right now is, of course, the quarterback position, because that's going to be the main topic of conversation for a lot of people right now. And the main topic right now is Spencer Rattler. After 6 weeks of Spencer Rattler, has he earned the chance, or has he earned the right, as some people would say, to be the franchise starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints? This is the main topic of discussion. We're going to get into a couple of other topics later on in the show, but this is the main one right here because it's got Saints fans in a civil war right now, a civil war of words. And this is a very, very slippery slope because no matter which side you're on, you're going to get attacked. Whether you're not on Spencer Rattler's side, you're going to get attacked by the other side. If you're on Spencer Rattler's side, you're going to get attacked from the other side. It's just not. It's not fun right now. It's not fun right now. You're trying to have those honest discussions because they're so entrenched one way or the other. There's no middle ground. There's no open for discussion with most Saints fans, regardless of how you swing. And that's a little disheartening if you're trying to have open dialogue about your team. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. There's radical fans in every fan base. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, as that famous saying would go. But listen, man. Hey, Spencer Rattler, is he the franchise starting quarterback? Here's my opinion about it. Quote, it ain't, I say opinion. My word ain't gospel. Y'all can do your own research if you want to, but here's where I currently sit with Spencer Rattler. For the past 15 seasons, we've had Drew Brees as our starting quarterback and our franchise guy. He comes from the San Diego Chargers. He fails a physical with the Miami Dolphins. The Saints take a chance on him with Sean Payton, and the rest speaks for itself. But the topic right now is franchise quarterback. We know what a franchise quarterback is supposed to look like. But what is a franchise quarterback? What makes someone a franchise quarterback? The label franchise quarterback, to me, is you have to have a certain skill set that you are elite at. Elite as in not anyone else in the league can do what you do. You have to be elite in something. That's something that sets you apart from everyone else in your group. What we saw from Drake May yesterday, that's elite. We saw Drake May take advantage of the weaknesses of the Saints defense consistently. Do you know how much respect or how little respect you have to have for an opposing secondary to just throw up fuckets everywhere. I mean, he threw up a fucket to Douglas. He threw up a fucket to Kayshon Boutte. He threw up a fucket to Stephon Diggs. He threw up a fucket to Hunter Henry. It's just nonstop deep shots of passes that are traveled over 10 or more air yards. He averaged 15 air yards per throw in the first half. Now, shout out to Brandon Staley. He shut them down with only 3 points to gain in the second half. But to come out like that and say, I don't think your secondary is really like that. And I'm finna prove it right now on live television. That is absolutely disrespectful. But that's what makes him such a good quarterback. A great quarterback, mind you. The leaps he made from year 1 to year 2 is paramount. Being able to take advantage of a defense's weakness and exploit it until you force them to adjust, and then you adjust off of that. You saw Drake May be elite in pocket in terms of being able to manipulate the pocket and buy those extra half to full seconds of time to get the ball where he wants to get it to. Trusting his receivers to make the play. That's elite stuff. That's what's keeping him in contention with the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. Now, what does Spencer Rattler do well? That's a question everyone needs to ask themselves. What does Spencer Rattler do well that sets him apart from everyone else? Sure, but let's talk about what he does do well, right? He can avoid pressure in the pocket. He's great in terms of being able to extend the play when he needs to. He's great at getting to his first read and throwing on his first read. I have some stats here I want to pull up for you guys, just so we get some context on what's being talked about with Spencer Rattler in terms of throwing on his first read, right? We're going to talk about this right here. I got it up on my phone. I don't know what is going on here, but we finna find it. We finna go through this. We're finna go through this. Let me find it. Is there a next level? Yes, there is a next level, but let's talk about this real quick. Spencer Rattler, on his first read, Spencer Rattler is now 96 for 147 on his first three throws. 21 of 26 on checkdowns with 5 touchdowns and no picks. And as far as his next read, like if his first read is not there, he has to go to his next read. Spencer Rattler is 10 for 17. But look at the disparity right now between the first and second read for Spencer Rattler. 147 attempts on first read throws. And this is from Nick Underhill. So shout out to Nick and New Orleans Football. 147 pass attempts on his first read and only 17 on his next read. That's something that he does well, but is it elite? He's avoided pressure, and his time yesterday from snap to throw averaged up to 2.16 in the first half. Now that's pretty good. That's understanding that you respect the pass, you respect the pass rush, and you're avoiding those negative plays that get you behind the chains. That's pretty good. I can respect that. But is it elite? What about red zone efficiency? Red zone efficiency, he is 29th in the league. This is not from Nick Underhill. This is another source. But Spencer Rattler is 29th in the league in red zone efficiency. Now, we got to contextualize that one because it's not entirely his fault. But if you're going to be a franchise quarterback, your face and name are going to be linked to that. That says that you don't have the skill set to really operate when you're inside the 20. Whether you like it or not, that's what a franchise quarterback is going to have to go through. Drew Brees went through it. Tom Brady went through it. Aaron Rodgers, when he was with the Green Bay Packers, went through it. Russell Wilson, when he was with the Seattle Seahawks, went through it. All these franchise guys go through that. If you play well, it's a team thing. If you don't play well, it's a quarterback thing. So we have to stop trying to shield Spencer Rattler for certain inefficiencies with the Saints offense. Yes, there's plenty of blame to go around. And like I said, we're going to get into that later on in the show. But to be a franchise quarterback means that you take those bullets. You take those bullets for your team. So everyone wants to just make excuses for Spencer Rattler here. Spencer Rattler, from year 1 to year 2, has had a great jump. A fantastic jump. He's definitely playing above his draft status as a 5th-round pick. No one can take that from him. It's plain as day. But for me, with Spencer Rattler, the question I'm having to answer is, can you win games with Spencer Rattler, or can you win games because of Spencer Rattler? There's a big difference between the two. To be a franchise quarterback, you have to win games because of who you are at the quarterback spot. Drake May and the New England Patriots are 4-2 because of Drake May. The New York Giants are 2-0 with Jackson Dart because of Jackson Dart. How Jackson Dart exposed the Philadelphia Eagles. How Drake May and the Patriots went to Buffalo and beat down on their division rival. The Saints couldn't do that, even though they were in the game. And arguably, you can make the argument that talent-wise, from the receiver spot, Saints have better talent at the receiver spot than the New England Patriots. And you took them head up right now. I would take Olave. I would take Shaheed over Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas. Now, that third one, Stephon Diggs, can make an argument about that. But the difference between the two talent-wise, is undeniable. But Drake May elevates those guys. He elevates Pop Douglas. He elevates Kayshon Boutte. He elevates Stephon Diggs. Even though the Stephon Diggs didn't have as great of a game on paper as you would think. But that matters. Can we say for certain that the Saints can win because of Spencer Rattler? It's the same question with Jalen Hurts right now. Can you win football games because of Jalen Hurts, or can you win with Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts right now is fully egressing into this left side, into the left category. The Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl, as it looks right now, with Jalen Hurts. Kellen Moore had a big hand in that. Put in Jalen Hurts in positions to succeed. Same with A.J. Brown. Same with Devontae Smith. That is why things right now with the Eagles are so volatile. Because an offensive coordinator matters more than the players. The scheme is over the players right now. It should be player over scheme. Not scheme over player. That's what the Philadelphia Eagles are going through right now. The San Francisco 49ers, with their quarterback situation, right now, Brock Purdy is winning football games with them, and he's not winning football games because of him. Mac Jones, even though he's a top round pick of the New England Patriots a while back, they are winning football games with Mac Jones because Kyle Shanahan just knows how to make any quarterback starting back there, or practically almost any starting quarterback back there, into a serviceable starter that can win you football games. That's how Kyle Shanahan has always been and always will be as an offensive play caller. He's able to adapt almost any quarterback to his system, and they pretty much won't ever skip a beat. That's why there's controversy right now over on that side of the United States, okay, with the contract that they gave Brock Purdy, tying him up with so much money that you didn't really need to because you got 10 right now winning you games almost in better fashion than you would have won games with Brock Purdy. Here's another example. Right now, Baker Mayfield is winning games because it's Baker Mayfield. Even better example, the Carolina Panthers, right? Look at what they've done over the last 2 weeks. Are they winning games because of Bryce Young, or are they winning football games with Bryce Young? Right now, it's a little hard to see. It's really hard to say right now. But I will give Bryce Young credit. Came back against I think it was the Miami Dolphins the week before. And there was a lot of, it's the Miami Dolphins. But the Dallas Cowboys, they were in that game from the jump. Now, a lot of that has to do with Rico Dowdle. If you would have told me going into the season that Rico Dowdle would have 200 rushing yards just about in back-to-back weeks, I would have told you, hand me some of that you smoking, because that's got to be some good stuff. Over 200 yards against the Dolphins and 183 rushing yards against the Dallas Cowboys. Over 206 total yards from Rico Dowdle is insane to me. But they're winning football games. Shout out to Dave Canales for getting those boys right, believing in Bryce Young, believing in that team. They're starting to find their identity. They're 3-3 right now. They're 3-3. The Falcons play tonight, so we're going to see what they about against the Buffalo Bills. And them boys over there in Buffalo are hot. They're red hot. They're pissed off. So I'm finna be hate watching like a motherfucker. But we're not just going to sit here and act like the Falcons, you know what I'm saying, could win football games because of Michael Penix. They could trend in that direction. But for the Saints, they're not going to win football games because of Spencer Rattler. And that's okay. That is okay to say. Spencer Rattler, while he's elevated from his draft status, for me, he's just not at that level of being a franchise quarterback because nothing he does is elite. Nothing he does is elite. And we have to stop saying that you don't have to be elite to win football games. Understand what you're saying. We have to understand what we're saying when we say that. To be a franchise quarterback, you have to be elite in something, in at least one something. When you look at these other franchise quarterbacks these teams have, what's one thing they do well? Drake May can pick apart an opposing defense. Josh Allen is freaking Superman. Just about. Lamar Jackson, he's the most electric guy when the football is in his hands. He makes plays when plays aren't supposed to be made. That's a franchise quarterback. Joe Burrow, if I got any LSU fans in here, Joe Burrow took them to the Super Bowl a few years ago. Joe Burrow and his star power elevates the Cincinnati Bengals to relevancy when he's on the field. Joe Burrow is saving the job of Zach Taylor, who by all accounts should be fired. Like, what are we doing here? Hell, Sam Darnold's looking Sam Darnold's looking pretty damn good right now, even though they just lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Speaking of, Liam Cohen is bringing out the best in Trevor Lawrence. I've never seen Trevor Lawrence so enthusiastic about football. If y'all remember back in 2020, when he gave that interview saying that he doesn't really love football as much, he'll be okay without football. 2020 Lawrence and 2025 Lawrence are looking pretty far apart right now. Are they winning games because of Trevor Lawrence, or are they winning games with Trevor Lawrence? Winning games with Trevor Lawrence right now. But if they continue on winning football games, it's going to be because of Trevor Lawrence. Because no doubt about it, that man is a talented quarterback. But Liam Cohen is elevating those guys, getting them to play at a level that a lot of people didn't expect them. Like they didn't think they would. You know what I'm saying? CJ Stroud. Right now, are they winning games because of CJ Stroud, or are they winning football games with CJ Stroud? I wasn't all that high on CJ Stroud to begin with. Even though he's a talented quarterback, is he a franchise guy that you can win because of? Right now, it's not looking like that. Sure, they just beat down on the Baltimore Ravens, but everybody's beating on Baltimore Ravens right now, and that's a shocker right there, by the way. But they're beating down on the Baltimore Ravens. But they're not winning football games in dominant fashion because of CJ Stroud. Sure, injuries could play a factor in that. Let's not, let's keep that for what it is. But even last year, when they made the playoffs, there was some speculation, there was some concern that CJ Stroud was regressing at a pretty much an alarming rate. We'll have to watch that one as it goes. But Cam Ward, the jury's still out on Cam Ward. It's his first season. He's got plenty of time to cook. You know what I'm saying? Plenty of time to cook. That's the first overall pick. That clock is ticking mighty fast. He's got to show something. So kudos to them for getting that first win against the Arizona Cardinals, even though it came, it was like a weird win. A very, very weird win. Look, guys, all these quarterbacks have something they're good at. Every single one of them. It sets them apart, whether you like them, whether you hate them. The Saints don't have that in Spencer Rattler. Sure, he's going to battle. He's going to battle every which way. Oh, Seahawks beat the Jaguars. Okay, that's my bad. My timeline was going crazy. That's my bad. See, my timeline was going crazy, saying that the Jaguars came out beating the Seattle Seahawks. That's my fault. So shout out to Sam Darnold. My bad. I ain't mean to disrespect. But the Seahawks got that dub against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that goes back to my question. Are they winning games because of Trevor Lawrence, or are they winning with Trevor Lawrence? That's the question right now. But shout out to my boy. Shout out to my boy Chop. What's going on, Kai the Great? What's going on, Kai? Good to see you, my boy. But yeah, that's the question, man. For the Saints, you're not in a position right now to have someone that you can win with if you're trying to find a franchise guy. Saints fans should know what the standard should be for a franchise quarterback. They should know. We should know. We were spoiled with it. We won games because of Drew Brees and who he was with his accuracy. His ball placement. Spencer Rattler doesn't have great ball placement. Hell, even with that 53-yard completion to Chris Olave on the very first play against the Patriots, that should have been a walk-in touchdown. It should have been a walk-in touchdown. Chris Olave had 2 yards of separation, beating the coverage. Spencer Rattler should have gotten that farther ahead of him, at least a half yard further out. He's already in the end zone. But that's a knock on Spencer Rattler. That's just who Spencer Rattler is. Now, that's okay. It's not saying that he's a bad quarterback at all. Sure, you can win with him if the pieces are right. But to sit here and say that he's earned a right to be a franchise quarterback, that's just settling for mediocrity. It's just settling for average. Why would y'all want to settle when y'all know what we had in Drew Brees? Like, that's not right. Y'all should want that. Y'all should want more for yourselves. Like, let's just keep it for what it is. Now, do I think the Saints have anything with Tyler Shuck? I don't know. Officially, I don't know. Though I'm not too sold on Tyler Shuck right now. He should get his opportunity at some point, probably after the bye week when the Saints are officially out of playoff contention. Probably just to see what you got, because you pretty much have to, right? You're drafting the 40th overall. You're drafting the top 50. He's already 26 years old, even though he's playing in a league to where you can play late in your 40s and still play at a high level. But for right now, something has to change. Something has to change. Because even though he got his first win against the Giants, yeah, it's a great feel-good story. Yeah, you want to see that for Spencer Rattler. Yeah, you want to see the Saints young secondary make plays. But when we look back at that game, who can honestly say that they won that game because of Spencer Rattler? I sure can't. Sure, he made great plays to keep them, to keep them in the winning column. But let's just keep it for what it is. If you need a super team to be called a franchise quarterback, you're not a franchise quarterback. Jalen Hurts is finding that out right now. Right now, as we breathe. Finding that out. Jackson Dart looks like a franchise quarterback to me. Drake May looks like a franchise quarterback to me. Baker Mayfield is a bona fide franchise quarterback. Because he plays with so much moxie. He plays with so much attitude. He's true to himself. He'll make a huge play and he'll talk shit afterwards. And he gets guys around him to believe in that infectious personality of Baker Mayfield. It spreads to everybody. And they all raise the level of play. That's a franchise quarterback right there. Spencer Rattler don't do that. Yeah, he's going to scrap. He's going to fight. He's going to claw. Go try to make the play that needs to be made. I can't say he's a franchise quarterback, and neither should anybody else. Though, obviously, their opinions are going to be what they are. But with that being said, for right now, let's just say for the sake of argument that the Saints go with Spencer Rattler for another season, right? Because right now the crop of quarterbacks in this year's next year's draft class, with Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, Lenora Sellers, Kay Klubnik, those guys, John Mateer, those guys aren't cutting it. Garrett Nussmeier, those guys aren't cutting it. I don't think the Saints should feel comfortable taking any of these quarterbacks that are coming up in the 2026 draft class. Because for me, a franchise guy, you need to have talent as well as production, quality production in the game, not late in the game when the game's pretty much already over for you. You need to have talent, you need to have production. You have something that sets you apart. So the one thing right now, the only person who I say you can have something that sets him apart is Lenora Sellers. And right now he's not playing too good. Because Lenora Sellers, you can't teach size. You can't teach natural athleticism. You can't teach, creativity in the pocket. Those are things you gotta have. And Lenore Sellers, for all intents and purposes, has that. But the production for me is not there. Now, an argument can be made that South Carolina is just not that good overall around him, to be fair. And at least Lenore Sellers is elevating them to at least compete. So if they like Lenore Sellers, I wouldn't be too mad at it. I wouldn't feel great about it, but I wouldn't be too mad at it. Everybody else, it's a toss-up. And that's funny considering the amount of people I've talked to over the summer saying that Cade Klubnik, that Garrett Nussmeier, Arch Manning, these guys are going to be in contention for the Heisman. And when I told them, and I'm a Texas guy, y'all know I'm a Texas guy. When I told them that y'all need to slow down on Arch Manning, I got flamed for it. Boy, I got heat for it over the course of 3 days, saying that Arch Manning is not a Heisman candidate because he couldn't even beat out Quinn Ewers. And we all know what Quinn Ewers is right now, a late 7th round pick for the Miami Dolphins. Now, shout out to my boy Quinn. But when you can't even beat out Quinn Ewers, who was drafted 7th round, what does that tell you about Arch Manning? There were some highlight clips of Arch Manning coming out of high school that I saw on Twitter X of some of the competition he faced. There's no wonder he's playing as bad as he is right now. He played nobody. He legit played. They looked like it looked like he was playing junior varsity guys who were out of shape. Like there's no wonder you're gonna look like the best, like the cream of the crop when that's the crop you're in. You know what I mean? But yeah, so when I told him that Arch Manning needs at least another year of development as a full-time starter, everybody was on my case. And now look at my team. Hey, at least we beat Oklahoma though. I'll be good for the rest of the season. We done beat Oklahoma. That's all I care about. Fuck Oklahoma. No disrespect to no disrespect my boy Danny Stutzman, all right? But it is what it is. But that being said, man, look, back to my original point. I don't think there's any guy right now for the Saints to be comfortable with taking in the 2026 overall as the next quarterback. Even though technically you need to hit on a guy, you need to keep throwing darts on the dartboard until you hit your guy. That's just, you just have to. So if someone falls in their lap and they really want to take a chance on them, go for it. But personally, I don't see it. Now, obviously, them guys will have a different opinion about it, probably, because I'm just a guy sitting at home just giving my opinion. I'm not in the room doing an actual pro evaluating, even though I will be soon. I'm training to be. Because I'm going to college soon. Your boy's going to college soon. But with that said, let's say for the sake of argument, Spencer Rattler ends up getting another season, another chance to be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Let's just say for the sake of argument, he's a bridge guy, right? And so the guy you actually want comes out of college, right? If Spencer Rattler is your starting quarterback for next year, just again, for the sake of argument, just starting quarterback for at least next year, you need a better supporting cast. Because the supporting cast for right now is not really tailor-made to fit what Spencer Rattler does well. What Spencer Rattler has right now is more inclined to someone like Tyler Shuck, who's known for his ball placement, who's known for his accuracy. Now, what Tyler Shuck doesn't do well is avoid pressure in the pocket. We all know what Tyler Shuck can look like when there's pressure in his face, all right? Spencer Rattler, he's standing in the pocket. He's making them throws. He's taking them hits. He's more durable than most people give him credit for. I can 100% say that. But for Spencer Rattler, in order for him to succeed, you need a certain type of supporting cast around him. And what type of supporting cast is that? What is wrong with this current supporting cast? Well, let's look at what happened in the game against the New England Patriots. The most recent example. Spencer Rattler hit a dime on 3rd and 14. I think it was either late 3rd or early 4th to Chris Olave. Olave elevates over everybody and he comes down with it, only to get it punched out by a Patriots DB who wasn't even a starter. I think he was filling in for somebody. He gets it punched out. Juwan Johnson is not it. He never should have gotten that 3-year extension. He should be somewhere on TikTok getting his money over there, making viral TikToks with his wife, than being a starting tight end for this Saints team. From drops to his running backs not being able to pass protect, I love AK as much as anybody. He is the face of this franchise for a reason, a future Hall of Famer. Don't care what anybody says. Alvin Kamara should not be pass protecting. Alvin Kamara should not be pass protecting. He should not be pass protecting. I'll say this as many times as I have to. AK should not be pass protecting because that has never been his game. So Kellen Moore should not be putting him in positions to be a pass protector against blitzes. Shouldn't be doing that. AK whiffed on a corner blitz because after he saw it late, mind you, he saw it late, he whiffed on it, ends up a sack for Marcus Jones. So from drops to late or poor blitz pickups to the most egregious thing that's pretty much the main talking point for Spencer Rattler, he's not accurate. Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, Brandon Cooks, these are speedy route runner types that you need to be on time with, that you need to hit in stride. There is yak ability here. There are some people out there, that say the Saints get no yak. And you're right, they don't. But the ability is there. The plays are there to be made for yak. Rattler is just always a step behind because he doesn't really understand coverages very well. He doesn't understand throwing with anticipation. He needs to see it coming open or see it open before he makes the throw. Or he needs to be able to consistently throw it to a spot and trust that his receiver is going to be there to make the play. He doesn't have that. That's not part of his game. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are guys that require you to be on time with routinely, and like it needs to be second nature to get the yak ability that that they know they can produce as. For all the hate and shit we gave Derek Carr, at least Derek Carr understood he needed to throw with anticipation to get these guys yacked. And trust me, I hate saying that name as much as anybody. It puts a poor taste in my mouth. And I hope I never have to say it again. But that's just where we're at. So if you're going to build around Spencer Rattler, for the sake of argument, if you're going to build around Spencer Rattler, you need the type of supporting cast that's more of a possession type. Those gritty types, like Spencer Rattler. A Kayshon Boutte type, a Mike Evans type, a Mike or a Keenan Allen type, or a Deebo Samuel type when he was with the Niners. You need a physical possession receiver. You need a physical possession receiver who can get yards after contact. Yards after contact receiver. That's what Spencer Rattler needs. You need guys who have a wide catch radius, who can stand up to hits over the middle of the field, who is not afraid of laying contact after the catch and getting those extra yards. That's the type of identity that needs to be around Spencer Rattler. Because if he's going to be able to take hits, his supporting cast should be able to do the same. Now, I think Kendrick Miller works out well as a guy that can be, he could be 1A to Kamara's 1B, especially at this point in Kamara's career. I think Kendrick Miller is an ideal 1A back for Spencer Rattler. I think that's a good starting point because Kendrick Miller leads in broken tackles in the NFL right now with limited carries, mind you. No, he really shouldn't have to be working so hard. If the offensive line that's full of first-round picks can actually sustain the block. But it is what it is. He still makes it work. Just like Spencer Rattler, he's trying to make it work. You need a type of tight end that can out-muscle a linebacker or a nickel corner or a safety. You need muscle on the outside. None of these guys are muscle. It's a mismatch waiting to happen. And sorry if I'm shaking the desk. I'm kind of shaking my knee right now. But that's just who Spencer Rattler is. But if you do that, yeah, the wins are going to come. Probably. Because Kellen Moore, for all intents and purposes, right now, he's finding his stride. For the past 3 weeks now, Kellen Moore has called a great offensive performance. Now, the penalties on the offense today, or on Sunday, were not great. But going into that game, for the last 2 weeks up to that point, the Saints were the least penalized offense in the league. Like, he got them playing pretty crisp football outside of, trying to be efficient in the red zone. Because they're still the worst in the league at that, right? But that's the type of cast that Spencer Rattler needs. Now, if you do go into next year with Spencer Rattler as your starting quarterback, who can you get, whether in free agency or the draft, and build around that identity of being a physical football team? Jordan Tyson fits the bill. Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. Makai Lemon from USC, he fits the bill. What about tight end? I like Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt. Eli Stowers is a great yards at the contact guy who's got pretty deceptive speed and route running ability as a tight end. Now, his blocking might need to improve a little bit. But from a pass catching standpoint, I think, especially if you're going to keep, Stoll and Foster Moreau, keep those two as your two main blocking tight ends, who you occasionally leak out and run a route. But Eli Stowers, I like him. Jordan Tyson, I like him. Makai Lemon, I like him, especially if Lemon is your primary slot receiver. That man's doing damage right now in USC from the slot. Those are my main three. If you can get any one of them, that I think you have something you can build on. You know what I'm saying? Now, as the Saints do pick top 5, what about their defense? Because their defense needs work. For one thing, you have to build around Brian Brzee. You've already paid Chase Young, who, for all intents and purposes, was giving Will Campbell fits on that left side. I mean, fits. It's like he should have had 3 sacks in that game. I don't know how he did it, but that's just, I'll chop that up to just Drake May being Drake May. But he should have had 3 sacks in that game, bare minimum. So you got Chase Young and you've got Brian Brzee. I would absolutely trade Carl Granderson. I would trade Pete Werner, who I believe is going to get traded sooner rather than later, because for the first time this season, we saw Danny Stutzman get exposed to the defense. He got a couple snaps on defense in place of a healthy Pete Werner who was on the sideline. Not just him, but Isaiah Stallbird also. Between that and a report coming out that teams they've been fielding calls who are interested in trading for Pete Werner, you're not going to do that. You're not going to take Pete Werner out of the game for Danny Stutzman and Isaiah Stallbird if you're not at least considering the idea of trading him. And if you can get any value back for Granderson or Werner, it's a dub. For Werner, I would say it's like no less than the fourth rounder, because Pete Werner is still a good linebacker. In 2022, before he got injured in that game against the Cardinals, Pete Werner was leading the league in total tackles. And he was top 3 in the league in solo tackles with 76. He was top 3, and he wasn't 3. He was second in the league in solo tackles, 76. Overall, he had 89. He was well on his way to having 120, 130 tackle season. That would have been good for second team All Pro. That's the type of game he was having. He's not that good in coverage, but he is good in the run game. He is good at identifying the play and being around the football. Not to mention, they just paid him. Now, granted, if they just paid him and they're going to take that contract, and the Saints just lost together, so they're 1-5. A fourth rounder makes sense. I'd settle for a fifth, but ideally you want a fourth, even though you took him second overall. He hasn't played like a second overall pick since his rookie year, or since 2022. Excuse me. I would trade Pete. I would trade Granderson, even though technically he's coming with a pretty big cap hit because not too long ago he signed an extension. That was I think it was the year before, where Granderson signed that 4-year extension. His 2025 cap hit comes out at just over $24 million. But after this year, it goes down to $18 million. In the final year of his contract, his cap hit goes down to $6 million. I would take a page out of the Broncos playbook and just eat that shit. You've been careful about not spending your money already so far this year. I would eat the dead cap hit for Carl Granderson, trade them and get some draft capital back. Because no matter what you get for him at this point, it's going to be a win. You've elevated an undrafted rookie coming out of Wyoming into a bona fide starter or a bona fide rotational player. Right now, he's top 8 in the league in sacks with 5. I would absolutely try to see what you can get from Carl Granderson, because I wouldn't factor Carl Granderson into the future plans for this team. Brandon Staley has 4-3 guys trying to play 3-4. Let that sink in for a second. What I mean by that, the type of scheme that Brandon Staley wants to run, it doesn't suit the skill sets of certain guys who are playing right now, who have played under the likes of Dennis Allen, who ran a 4-3 base, 4-2-5 nickel. These are 4-3 guys. You need 3-4. You need outside linebackers, pure edge rushers. If you're going to drop them back into coverage every now and again, they need to have the athleticism. They need to have the frame and the speed to do it. Right now, the only person who can do that consistently right now, build-wise, is Chase Young. He showed a little bit of that the year before Brandon Staley came in. But Carl Granderson's not doing that. Cam Jordan, consistently not going to be able to do that. And I think I don't know, but I think this is Cam's last year. And technically it should be, as is Demario Davis. We knew this is going to be a multi-year build. We know they're going to make some uncomfortable decisions. So we need to accept the fact that right now the Saints need to get as much draft capital as physically possible. So right now, what I'm looking at is sports right. It takes into account of contracts. Carl Granderson has $24.4 million in dead cap this year if the Saints decide to trade him. The Saints currently have about $14.7 million in available cap money. You have to do a little bit of maneuvering, but if you want to get draft capital back, they will find a way to make it work. Let's see here. But overall, this is not a team that you can't, like, almost no one should be untouchable unless you're Alvin Kamara and Cam Jordan, unfortunately. Now, I love those guys. Don't get me wrong. But this is a business oriented league. Yes, I value loyalty as much as anybody. Loyalty, love it. But you also have to be real with yourself that where you're at. You do need veteran leadership on a young team. So Cam and AK are going to be great from a leadership perspective. But if you keep them after no later than 2026, you're doing yourself more harm than good. Because you gotta be honest with where you're at. Like this whole defensive line, they couldn't penetrate Bonnie Blue if they wanted to. They couldn't penetrate Bonnie Blue, and we're asking them to sack the quarterback. We're asking them to penetrate and get the quarterback. It's not cutting it. Nathan Shepard's not cutting it. You know what I'm saying? Williams isn't cutting it. Not even John Ridgeway, after he comes back, he won't cut it. They don't have the pieces on the D-line to get it done, except Chase Young and Brian Brzee. And if you know that, understand that you got two guys right now who are getting field calls about wanting to trade for them. Get some back. Restart the clock on your defensive line with some younger talent and see what happens. And for the love of God, stop trying to use Pete Werner as the pass rusher. For the life of me, I do not understand why they keep using Pete Werner as a pass rusher. He has no pass rush skills. The man just runs in a straight line and just smashes us into the closest offensive lineman he can find. He has no plan. No plan, no pass rush ability. If anyone should be doing that, it should be at least be Demario Davis. It's just, we just got to be real with ourselves. We just got to be real with ourselves here, guys. Which is why I say Pete Werner should be traded. Danny Sussman being on the field is good for this team. You've already built up Danny Sussman through training camp. You've given him the green dot. Very rarely do defensive coordinators give rookie linebackers the green dot and they don't end up eventually taking the field. If you're trusting Danny Stutzman is that high, then go ahead and put him on the field. It doesn't matter what Pete Werner's contract is. Because at this point, I would argue that Pete Werner being on the field is a liability. The Saints routinely miss tackles on the field, and Pete Werner is one of them. One of them. He missed 4 tackles by himself on Sunday against the Patriots. 4. 2 of them would have been tackles for loss. The man just runs full speed. He doesn't break down. He doesn't wrap up. He just runs through a hole and just throws his body at someone and hoping that they fall. It's just not good football. It's not good linebacker play. And it's leaving your second level compromised. There was a run, I think it was either with Henderson or Stevenson, that after Pete Werner missed that tackle, he gained about 16 yards. You can't have that. And that's just one example of many I've seen from the Saints defense in terms of missed tackles. That just can't happen. It can't happen. Danny Stutzman was a finalist for the Butkus Award. Yeah, I don't know what that is. That is the award for top linebacker in the nation. That award eventually went to Jahad Campbell, but if Danny Stutzman was available for 2 of those games in his final collegiate season, I'd be willing to bet that he'd win that. I'm willing to bet he'd win that award. Because Danny Stutzman is just that guy. I mentioned my team Texas a little while ago. If you guys don't know, the Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners have what's called the Triple R game. If you guys don't know what Triple R means, that's the Red River Rivalry game. I don't always say that last word right. Rivalry. There we go. The Red River Rivalry game. Danny Stutzman embodies that more than anyone because he has juice. He's an old school type of linebacker that has vehement hate for any team that is a rival of his. He plays with attitude, he plays with energy, and he doesn't miss tackles very often, if at all. Since coming onto the scene in Oklahoma, and he led the team in special teams tackles like he's so far doing with the New Orleans Saints, Danny Stutzman has been trending upwards and upwards and upwards every season. He lives in zone coverage. That's his thing. He wants his eyes on the quarterback. He wants his eyes on the ball. He sees ball. He gets ball. That's the type of linebacker that would thrive under this zone coverage type of scheme that Brandon Staley likes to run. So, with that type of player on your sideline, it only makes sense why he eventually got the green dot when the Saints started training camp. Excuse me, I got something in my eye. Oh my God. Oh, that sucks. But it's time to turn the page. It's time to get Danny Stutzman some more exposure. And there's no better time for Danny Stutzman to get that said exposure than this week against the Chicago Bears. Dennis Allen hate week. Boy, this Dennis Allen hate week is going to be special if the Saints can find a way to win that game. I need them to win this game. Out of any other game this week, any other game this season, the Falcons and the Bears need to be games that they win. And I think Danny Stutzman is going to be one of the key factors in helping you do that. He gives you accountability as a leader in the making. He gives you that energy that you sorely need. Again, in the locker room that's already frustrated as hell. Because Justin Reed came out and said they're frustrated, but they're not going to let this break them down. Look, it's too late at this point. Because y'all know who the liabilities are. Danny Stutzman can give you a breath of fresh air, and if he does make mistakes, he's a rookie. So you have very little to lose at this point and so much to gain. So I would 110% trade Pete Werner to whoever. The 49ers stand out to me because they just lost Fred Warner. Hope he recovers quickly. They just lost Fred Warner against the Bucs. That injury, a broken ankle. I mean, snapped off the joint. Shouldn't have been the way it was bending. They had to immediately put an air cast on him and caught him off the field. Another team that stands with me that probably needs a linebacker, the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos need a linebacker. The Baltimore Ravens need a linebacker. I would see about that. But someone's going to be interested. And if the 49ers are in desperate need of one, you get more leverage there. You know what I'm saying? You get leverage. And for all intents and purposes, you're doing right by Pete Warner because you're trading him to a team that's going to be in contention to make the playoffs. So both sides would benefit. But you have to be able to make that call, make that choice. Speaking of people that need to be talked about, the Saints secondary. That secondary was absolutely atrocious. But they are a young secondary. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Quincy Riley, Jonas Anchor, all commanded by Justin Reed. And Alontae Taylor, of course. But this secondary, after the performance they put up against the New York Football Giants, under no circumstances should they have given up this type of performance the following week. I mean, that says to me that you're not as good as you think you are. Drake May said you're not as good as you think you are. And now the whole world believes him because you gave him that ammunition. You gave him that ammo. This secondary, Jonas Sanker gave up 2 catches for 114 yards. Kool-Aid McKinstry gave up 6 for 98. Alontae Taylor gave up 3 catches for 48. And Justin Reed gave up 1 for 13, I believe. That's what this says here, but I think I missed one. So that's the recipe for disaster and disaster. So what happened with this secondary? Is it a cause for concern, or is it just these are young guys who don't really have the chemistry yet? We noticed so far this year, not just in this game on Sunday, but in multiple games, starting from all the way back in week 1 against the Cardinals, the Saints have a size issue. When it comes to playing against opposing receivers who have size and physicality, they lose. And opposing offensive coordinators are now scheming against that because they know that they're not being taught proper technique, and they're not being able to get up and make a play that needs to be made. I don't know what that noise was just now. But it's something that they have to take into account, right? Because there are going to be some good corners coming out of this year's draft. Some good corners. I need to do a little bit more research on them, but there's always good corners every year. If you want to take Alontae Taylor out of the picture, right? Even though he's in talks right now, potentially being extended, which I think is a bad idea, by the way. If you're going to revamp this secondary to fit your style of play, you got to look at least Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry. If you want to be a zone coverage team, then you need guys who thrive in zone coverage. Asante Samuel comes to mind, even though we don't know what Asante Samuel's status is at the moment. I think he's still a free agent right now. He hasn't really signed with anybody. I think he's waiting for a contender to need a corner of his skill set. But that being said, for right now, it's a young secondary starting 2 rookies whose main goal was to help stop the run. So I'm not too concerned with the woes of the secondary right now. Now, Justin Reed might be a different story because for all the good he showed in preseason and training camp, it's not very much translating well to the regular season. Now, he might be just there for the veteran leadership, which is fine, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good whatsoever for Justin Reed. You know who else isn't looking too good right now? And we all know this guy, right? We all know who this guy is. But one second. 1 second. We're gonna take a quick break here. Let me get right. Give me just a second.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right, we back. All right, I just wanted to make sure I got this right. So, Juwan Johnson. We talked about him earlier in the show. When he got that extension back in March, we all had our hands on our head. We were all screaming, why? Now, granted, with Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau both sidelined with injury, you didn't have very much options at the tight end spot. So I can understand in theory why they had to maintain stability with some tight end, right? Unfortunately, they missed out on a chance to get a fresh tight end in the building. Now, you're not going to get Tyler Warner, Coastal Loveland, right? Let's just keep it for what it is. You had a chance at Mason Taylor. You had a chance at Harold Fannin. You had a chance at both of those guys, but instead, for a cheap deal, mind you, a cheap deal. But you decided to pay $30 million to an undrafted wide receiver out of Oregon, who was converted to be a pass catching tight end, who has no real true tight end ability, who now leads your team and drop passes this season. Next on the list is Chris Olave. I don't understand that. It'd be one thing if you take a tight end like Harold Fannin or Mason Taylor and they have drop issues. That's fine. But money drives narratives when we're talking about these players. And as far as I'm concerned, I would much rather deal with a rookie tight end having the yips than a $30 million tight end having the yips. It's unacceptable. Kellen Moore has had a history of getting the most out of his tight ends, from his time in Dallas with Ferguson and Dalton Schultz to his time in Los Angeles as the offensive coordinator with Gerald Everett, now to his recent time in Philly with Dallas Goedert. And now he's trying to do the same with Juwan Johnson. Unfortunately, Juwan Johnson is not the type of tight end that Kellen Moore can really get very much production out of. Juwan Johnson is who he is at this point in his career. Now, this isn't a complete bash on Juwan Johnson because he's had a successful career from where he started as an undrafted guy. The move to tight end pretty much saved him in terms of his longevity in the league. But in terms of if you're looking for a starting quarterback or starting tight end potential, that's just not Juwan Johnson, like at all. He has no confidence in himself. We have no confidence in him. So I would have much rather them take another tight end in a draft class that was kind of filled with quality tight ends. You know what I'm saying? But maybe I'm missing something. Maybe we're missing something. I don't know. It's so. The word I'm looking for isn't coming to mind, but it's something. It's something that's not good. It's something, but it's not good. Now, you can't really trade Juwan Johnson right now, unfortunately, but there is an out here, according to Sportsnet, there is an out here to where if they want to move from Juwan Johnson in the next offseason, they can do that after they restructure his contract. But that's going to be fully on Kellen Moore and Mickey Loomis to really hammer those things out. It's tough, man. It's tough. There are so many needs everywhere. So many needs everywhere. And I think the biggest need for them in terms of a passing skill set is find guys that fits what Rattler does well. None of these guys right now fits what Rattler does well. And that's certainly not their fault. Now that could be now this whole thing could be different, right? If Tyler Shuck eventually gets his start after the Saints are officially knocked out of playoff contention, if they start Tyler Shuck and they look a lot better under Shuck than they do Rattler, then I think that would help speed up the rebuilding process just a little bit. Because if you can play with timing with these guys, if you can play with anticipation with these guys, if Tyler Shuck can incorporate what Rattler does well in terms of avoiding pressure and not looking like a fool trying to escape the pocket or look like a fool trying to throw the ball away or anything like that, then I think they might be able to avoid catastrophe as they continue this rebuild. I think that'd be a positive sign for the Saints. However, that's a tall task to ask. Tall task. But it doesn't matter who is back there if the protections up front are not consistent. Which brings me back to right here. This man right here and Trevor Penning too, but mainly this guy right here, Cesar Ruiz. Cesar Ruiz gave up 0 pressures in his return back to return back to action against the Patriots, which is good. However, they really didn't have much in the interior to work with because Milton Williams had an illness that he was dealing with. He didn't see much action. That being said, I don't trust Cesar Ruiz as far as I can throw that nigga. All right. He still leads this team in pressures given up. He's top 2 right now on this team in sacks allowed. I don't trust him. Don't trust him, never will trust him. I think he came back and finally started playing like he give a damn because he saw what the service was like for Torricelli Simpkins and the reception he got. Now, Torricelli Simpkins didn't play lights out. Didn't play great by any stretch of imagination. However, the one thing that Torricelli Simpkins did well, and Brian Baldinger, Mr. Baldy himself, he even agrees with me on this. All Simpkins did was his job. That's all he did was his job. And what he did was picked up stunts. He married his feet with his hands. He kept his head up as he's initiating contact. He's not lunging forward, hoping to hit something with his hands. Right? Because as far as I don't know if some of y'all know, when it comes to being a D-line guy, I love defensive line, right? If you are a D lineman and you're going up against someone who is always throwing his hands out here, if his first move is to come at you with both hands, it's the easiest job in the world at that point. It's the easiest job in the world when you can go up against someone who just puts his hands out there and hopes he makes contact. Yes, because you have no plan after that. Because you go out here with both hands and you get swiped, then you're screwed. Unless you got inside help from your center. Because your edges, especially under Kellen Moore, who is asking his tackles to be on islands, if you as a guard know that your tackles are going to be left on islands against premium edge rushers, and you are left on the inside, your only hope is to get help from your center. If they go in the opposite direction of your center, then you're just praying You're praying to God the ball's out of your quarterback's hands. And this isn't just this season. This has been a known trademark issue for Cesar Ruiz since 2021. Since 21. I'll give 2020 a grace period because he was a rookie. But 2021, people, he's been graded as the worst offensive lineman in the NFL. Not just a starting guard, but a starting lineman in the NFL. And he's making top dollar. Top dollar for his contract. So if I'm a play caller for the offense, if I'm running an offense, and I drafted a rookie doing the same things as my top dollar right guard right now, I would much rather choose a cheaper option because you're making too much money to be consistently doing the same mistakes since 2021. The same mistake for 4 years. Absolutely unacceptable. Ain't no way. Ain't no way I pay you top money for all that. But that right there, man, look. I'm going to go to these comments real quick. I'm going to see what y'all got to say, man. I've been talking for like a huge minute, so I want to know y'all thoughts. I'm going to start up a little further up. Start a little further up here. Start up with my guy Kai. Our red zone offense is a big issue. We need to address and to fix like ASAP. I agree, which is kind of mind-boggling that they traded a 4th round pick of 2026, mind you, 2026 4th rounder for a wide receiver who they only targeted once in Sunday's game. Only targeted once, and Devon Vele. Something else has to be going on there for that to be happening because ain't no way. So, wow. So Twitter is going crazy right now. They're beefing with each other, to be expected. But anyway, yeah, man. Look, if you're going to trade a 4th round pick for a wide receiver, who is the tallest receiver on your team in Devon Vele, where are his targets? Why is he not being targeted? A lot of people say it's because Brandon Cooks is in the game. Part of that can be true. I'm of the opinion to where if you're going to trade a 4th round pick for a wide receiver, you better use him. You need to use him. If he's still dealing with an injury, I don't know. If it's just a not understanding the playbook thing, I don't know. Or is Rattler just not looking his way? I don't know. But whatever is going on with Devon Vele, he needs those targets. Right now, he's your best option in terms of a physical wide receiver standpoint. As a physical receiver, he would match up well with what Rattler wants to do or what he does well. So something's got to happen, right? Because it is absolutely unacceptable to where they can't really use Devon Vele. Go, my boy Brandon down here. What's going on, Brandon? Good to see you, man. He said he needs weapons. That's it. A true wide receiver 1 and tight end. That's also true. Look, I think both things can be true right now. I think both things exist for Chris Olave. He can be a number 1 receiver, but he's got the yips right now. I think due in part to the concussions that he sustained last year. I think that's still in the back of his mind in terms of all these drops that he's having with his game. The first 2 seasons, we had no issue with Chris Olave being the number one receiver. He looked great. He played great. But I think those concussions, I think got him playing scared. And to a certain degree, I can understand that. it's like you don't really have the trust of your quarterback right now. Well, you don't trust your quarterback to throw you into a safe position. But at the same time, I would mm, I would compare Chris Olave to Devontae Smith. I've said that for a while on Twitter X. His comp is Devontae Smith, and he needs his AJ Brown. He needs that. He needs his AJ Brown. He needs his physical receiver to take those lumps in his place, so he can do what he does best. Now, will that happen at some point with him here? I don't know, because they have a chance to really address that with Devon Vele, but like I said, they just won't target him for whatever reason. But I think there's speculation right now that Chris Olave might get traded. Either him and or Shaheed. My thing is, the Saints don't have a good history of drafting receivers. They don't. The more notable ones since 2015, Brandon Cooks, Michael Thomas. And neither of those guys played in the same space except for one season. You've had hits and misses pretty much everywhere after that. From Traquan Smith, Kwan Baker. There was another receiver they drafted since then. I forgot his name, but he didn't last very long. If you don't have a good history of drafting receivers and you end up with one like Chris Olave and Shaheed, I would keep them if I could. Now, that's an ideal world, and we don't live in an ideal world. For Chris Olave, if you do pay him, you have to understand that someone needs to take his place as the X receiver. Someone needs to work the opposite side to be the number one target. He needs to understand that he's going to be converted into the Devontae Smith type. And I think that's where Olave can really thrive. And there's no shame in that. Devontae Smith certainly has no issue with being the number 2 guy on the team. He's getting paid well. He's won a Super Bowl. He's got his running mate. I think that needs to happen for Chris Olave. So I have no issue in paying Chris Olave. Now, that being said, where is his value at? We have to look at his peers, like Garrett Wilson, for example, Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's going to be paid top dollar. JSN is going to be paid top dollar. JSN, Garrett Wilson. Where does Chris Olave factor in this? What money is he going to be paid? 20, 25 million, maybe 30, maybe even less than that, at around 21, 22 maybe. I'd be fine with a 22 million a year. Maybe even less than that. Maybe even less than that. Probably around 17, 18 million. But I need to see, hold on. Let's find out how much, let's find out to get there how much Garrett Wilson is making on this contract. And then we'll compare from there. So Garrett Wilson contract. Let's see what his contract's looking like. It's a 4-year, $130 million contract extension with the New York Jets. It includes a $90 million, which is $90 million guaranteed. Okay. It's valued at $32.5 million a year. So we're looking at 32.5 for Garrett Wilson. Right? Okay. So you're looking at $32.5 million for Garrett Wilson. Let's find Jackson Smith and Jigba. Right now, he's still in his rookie contract, but he's probably gonna command a little more than Garrett Wilson right now. I think JSN is gonna command probably around 34, maybe 35. So with that basis, let's say JSN gets around 35, and right now Garrett Wilson, he's getting 32.5. Where would Chris Olave be? Chris Olave will probably be around 28, maybe 29. That's factoring in what he's in his first 2 years, the concussions that he's had, his current level of play, and probably what you would hope him to be going forward. For one more comparison, I compared him to Devontae Smith. So let's compare him to Devontae Smith. See what his contract's looking like. Devontae Smith is making 3 years, $75 million. That's a $51 million guaranteed with a 5th year. It incorporates an exercising of his 5th year option. So we're doing 3 years, $75 million. That's around $25 million a year for Devontae Smith. So if we're doing around $25 million a year for Devontae Smith, I think Chris Olave would be around that range, right? 25, let's say maybe 26. So anywhere from 24 to 26 in that range. I think that's a fair assessment for Chris Olave, right? I think that's a fair comparison. I would do that for Chris Olave. And if you want to let go of Shaheed, as heartbreaking as that would be, I can understand it if they get his A.J. Brown. Because if you pay him, you let Shaheed go, he needs his A.J. Brown. Like, full stop. If that doesn't happen, then Mickey Loomis needs to be shot out of a fucking cannon and sent to the fucking moon. That has to happen if you're going to let Shaheed go. That being said, let's keep going on. So let's try a little more comments here. Drake May would not be himself with our offense. I don't know about that. I'm not too sure about that. I think Drake May has intangibles that you can't teach. Drake May has always been known, coming out of North Carolina, as the guy who can make plays when plays aren't there, and he can take advantage of tendencies in the defense or expose a defense. Even during his rookie year, he was doing that, even though not to this high a level. This is his intangibles with the year of experience underneath his belt at play. I think Drake May would elevate this offense even more so than it is. I think if Drake May was on the Saints offense right now, Drake May wins against the Cardinals. Drake May wins against Buffalo. Drake May wins. I would say he would win against the Niners. That's 3 wins right there. And right now, that will put you at 3-2. That puts you at 3-2. He would still lose against the Seahawks. And I don't think they would win against the Patriots, depending on who they had at quarterback at that time. But bare minimum, those 3 wins against the Cardinals, the Niners, and Buffalo, that puts you with this one win right now. That puts you at 4. It puts you at 4-2. Excuse me, I said 3-2, but I meant 4-2. Puts you at 4-2 because that quarterback matters. It absolutely does matter. Because right now he's doing the same things that Rattler does well in terms of avoiding a negative play. They both do that well. It's just Drake May is just better at undressing a defense than Spencer Rattler is. Spencer Rattler has to see it open before he makes a play or he takes off. He's at a first read or check down. There's no in between. He only has 17 pass attempts on his second read. Only 17, and he's 10 for 17. First read or check down to Spencer Rattler. Drake May is going through his progressions. He's communicating with his receivers. He's giving them a chance to make a play. I think that is Drake May. I think he elevates this roster better than what it is. I really do believe that. Brandon also says Rattler been on point, bro. He only missed around 5 passes and some were drops. So this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show. 2 things can be true. You can win with Spencer Rattler, but you're not winning because of Spencer Rattler. And I think that's fine. But as a franchise quarterback, I want my franchise QB to be the reason for the wins, not be part of the reason why they win. Win because of, not win with. And we're going to, right now, he's a win with. Rattler is a win with. And that's fine, but you have to spend time putting pieces around him that tailors to what he does well. And for right now, I don't think that's a recipe that Kellen Moore and this team can really afford to spend time, trying to make. You know what I'm saying? Jerry G, thoughts on Chris Olave getting traded? I don't see it happening. Nothing is beyond possibility at this point, OG. Nothing is beyond impossibility at this point. And all options should be considered. As much as I would hate and advise against it, logically speaking, this team has a lot of holes. And a team with a lot of holes needs a lot of draft capital to try and fix it as part of this rebuilding process, especially if they want to be competitive by 2027. So Chris Olave, if someone wants to trade for Chris Olave, they would have to pay him top dollar, and they would have to give him good draft capital, and they would have to pay a contract, a worthy contract on top of that. They're going to have to extend him because he's coming into the final year of his deal, or I think he's already in the final year of his deal. So someone's going to extend him if they trade for him. And I don't think he's going to be an unrestricted free agent come 2026. There's just no way. No way that's happening. So while I don't want it to happen, it may end up happening. I don't know. It depends on how Kellen Moore feels about the process going so far right now. Ideally, I want him to be a Devontae Smith type. I want him to be around 24 to 26 million, like I just mentioned, and get him as A.J. Brown. He needs his physical guy. As much as he loves Rashid Shaheed, they're pretty much cut from the same cloth in terms of being speedy route runners, being yards after run after catch guys. He needs A.J. Brown. He needs that tall guy. He needs that muscle guy that complements what he does. Lil P, what's going on with you? We look so weak. Came the cat. I mean, I agree. 100%. You won't even hear me. You won't even hear me say otherwise. Say you go to the draft. Say you go to the draft and get a top corner and top pass catcher. I need to do more research personally on who the top corner is going into 2026. But as far as top pass catcher, 2 names come to mind. Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, and Mekhi Lemon from USC. Now, technically, Mekhi Lemon is a slot receiver. That's not much of a physical guy, but he plays bigger than his size, if that makes any sense. But for me, my main one is Jordan Tyson. I would get Jordan Tyson because he's that X guy that can command those targets, that can command that attention on the field. I like what Jordan Tyson is doing so far in Arizona State. And so far, Arizona State, they've churned out some pretty notable guys. If y'all forgot what Cam Scatterboo's doing over there in New York. You know what I'm saying? So I would look at Jordan Tyson. I need to do a little more research to see who else is going to be available from a pass catcher standpoint. But as far as him, it's Jordan Tyson for wide receiver and Eli Stowers for the tight end. The tight end from Vanderbilt. I love Eli Stowers' game, especially as a pass catcher, bro. Especially as a pass catcher. I would absolutely do it. Tyson and Stowers. If you get either one of them, then you're on the right track as far as I'm concerned. But with that being said, hey, we hit over 2 hours at this point. It's almost 11:30. I got work in less than 2 hours. So that means your boy's going to have to wrap up for the day. But I appreciate every single one of y'all. Every single one of y'all that came into this podcast and made me part of your morning. Much love to y'all. Thank y'all so much. We're going to be going live later this week. We're going to be talking about our matchup with Dennis Allen's defense and the Chicago Bears. It's going to be a fun one. I will see you guys Wednesday morning. Talk about initial thoughts about this game. And enjoy the hate watch tonight. I can't wait to see Buffalo Bills put belt to ass with the Atlanta Falcons, the Falcons, as my boy OG would say. But again, thank y'all so much for tuning in. All my handles are down there in the description below. If y'all want to chat up with me, I'm very active on Twitter X. So if y'all want to hit me up on Twitter X, feel free. I will be there. I will be talking shop. If y'all want to hit me up on Instagram, I'm not as active there, but I will be. I am on Facebook also, but Twitter X is going to be my main place to talk all things Saints. So my handle is Dats Davis. If y'all want to hit me up over there, please feel free. Hit up my official B&G Breakdown podcast channel at BGB Pod over there on Twitter. Over there on Twitter X. I would really appreciate it. And it costs $0.06 to like this thing and share this thing. I need to share. Get me out there and the algorithm. Help your boy out. The more we're out of the algorithm, the more I'm going to be inspired to make this type of content. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, enjoy your Monday morning. Enjoy being at work. Enjoy the ride home. And you get off work, man. It's going to be okay. At some point, it's going to be okay, guys. It's a rebuild. We've all wanted it. We can't be mad now that it's here. We're going to suck for this year, probably next year. You know what I'm saying? Probably next year. 2027 is the goal. 2027 is the goal for the Saints to actually finally have a playoff berth. You know what I'm saying? So, but we got the head coach. We got the head coach who knows how to run an offense. He's just learning the nuances now of being the head coach in the National Football League. As far as a play caller perspective, he's everything that we would need. You know what I'm saying? So that's one piece down. Now everything else needs to fall into place. So bear with it. Let's get some of these old guys out of here, get these new fresh bloods in here, and maybe at the very least, let's continue being a fun team that can lose football games. But with that being said, I'll see y'all later. B&G Breakdown is out. As always, y'all don't know, you won't know it over here. We bleed black and gold until we are dead and cold. I'll see y'all Wednesday morning.